Hello and welcome to this tutorial to show you how to do smooth fading rollovers in Adobe Muse. So here is our example for you and what would we be accomplishing in this tutorial. We have the muscle and the exotic done, and we're going to do the off-road one together. So when the cursor comes over the image on both of them, red or orange transition comes on with an eyeball icon, and when the cursor comes off, the animation or transition disappears. So we're going to do this to the Ford truck one, and let's jump into Adobe Muse. So here's the same, let's say the background of it, of how we got this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open the widgets library, and in it there's a bunch of files, but we're going to focus on the composition, so we're going to open that. Out of the 5 here, we are going to choose blank, and it has the big square as well as the smaller 3. So we're going to take that and drag it onto the page. We can close that, and I'm going to close that. So as you can see, there's one big area and 3 tiny areas. Before we do anything, these 3 tiny areas represent 3 slides, a slideshow if you want to think about it that way. Because we're doing a fading rollover, we don't need 2 of these, we just need 1 slide in the slideshow. Now, this one, the tiny box down here is called the trigger, and this box, the bigger box, is called the target. The target area is where the transition or the animation will occur. The trigger area is where the mouse has to be over in order for the animation within the target to happen. So if the mouse is in the trigger, the animation will occur. So there's some few options we can play with. The first one is position. Currently it's at stacked, but it can also be scattered or lightbox. Scattered, we're going to leave it at scattered because there's only 1 trigger and 1 target. So stacked it is. Show target. Show target on click or on rollover. Because we're doing a rollover, we want it on rollover. The difference between on rollover and on click is that when it's on rollover, when the mouse is over the triggered area, the animation will occur. On click, the person visiting the website has to click on the triggered area in order for them to see the transition. Hide target. We do not want that. We want it on rollout or on rollout of trigger and target. The difference between these two is that this one is on rollout of trigger and rollout of trigger and target. On rollout, is usually when the trigger area is going to be on top of the targeted area, and we're going to have that. On rollout of trigger and target is usually used when the trigger and the target are in 2 different places, and you want the cursor to come off both before the animation is finished. If you leave it on none, when you put your cursor over the animation will occur. But when you take the mouse off, the animation still stays there. So if I put my mouse over the orange would show, but when I take it off, the orange would stay on top. So we're going to leave it on rollout. Transition. We want fading. Some people also like to use horizontal or vertical. If you do use horizontal or vertical, do be aware that it does change the hide target to a none, and you do not want that because, like what I just said, it won't go away. So when you change back to fading, it does not show on rollout or on rollout of trigger and target. So the way to get that back is just to change it to on click, change it back to on rollover, and it will show up once again. The transition speed. You can leave it at half a second, or you can change it to 0.4 seconds, which is not a big difference, but it's a personal preference, really. Shuffle is used to play the animations in different order. Because we're only using 1, it doesn't really matter, so let's keep it off. Enable swipe. Enable swipe is used when you're using like your cell phone and you want to swipe something, but in this case we're not really swiping anything because we're using a desktop, so you can take that off. Triggers on top. We want the triggers on top selected because in this case, if the trigger was not on top, in our case especially, when we put the the target and the trigger on top of the picture, want the trigger on top, because if the target is on top, then the person coming to a website will never see the animation because their mouse would never be able to get to the triggered area. This is usually selected off when the trigger and the target are in different places. And hide all initially. Want that also checked because when you open the web browser, you don't want the animation to be already there. You want it to be hidden until you put the cursor over the triggered area and then have the transition occur. So, and that's it. So let's deal with the targeted area first. So you can take away the stroke. This is the fun part, by the way. You take away the stroke and you can choose a color. I'm going to choose the color of the sand for it. And we are also going to change the opacity to 70%. This again is also a personal preference. If you want it very low and barely visible, or if you want it thick and there. But 70% is a good point, as you can see in the other two pictures. Add image. I'm also going to add the eye icon to this. It just adds a little bit to it, and we're going to center it. So now you're going to grab the targeted area and you're just going to pull it over the truck picture. Good. Now, the triggered box is very important. So clicking it, you're going to go over to the states over here first, and you're going to open it. The active state has to be deleted before you do anything, as well as the rollover state must be deleted. If you do not do this, when you open the page on the website, there will be a gray box like the color of the trigger when you open the page. When you put your mouse or cursor over the trigger area, the animation will occur, but when you take the mouse off, the box will still be there. So, and then when you are done deleting both the active and the rollover state, you must be in the normal state. You can close that. So, one more time. You must delete both the active, it's still going to show up, but you still must, if there's no garbage can icon, it means it's been deleted. Delete the active and the rollover state. And once that has been done, it must be in the normal state. So, you can remove the stroke again, remove the fill, because the color is already given to you, and you just click and drag and put it over. And there you go. Now, you open this in the web page. We got the muscle, the exotic, and the off-road. But here's a problem with this version of Muse. For some reason, as you see here, I put it perfectly, but on these two I did not. When you put it perfectly around the image in Adobe Muse, it overlays it on the page, but it goes past the image. So in order to fix that, you have to click the trigger and just move it just about there. Should be good. Might take a little bit of back and forth trying to fix it, get perfect. Took me a lot of tries to do the other two. Changing the picture also does not work. I tried that and it's the same thing still happens. So this is the only way to fix it as I know right now. And then when you show it in the thing, it looks practically perfect. So this is something that with Adobe Muse right now might fix that in the future. One more thing to note, I said earlier that it's like a sandwich with the picture being the bun and the target being the meat and stuff like that. If you want to touch the target or add something to the target or add something to the sandwich, you have to take the bun off like you would do in double click. You have to double click first. Double click, take off the bun, which is the trigger. Then you add whatever you want, you fix it, you want your lettuce on top first, whatever, doesn't matter. And then you throw the bun back on top. And just like that. Now, one more thing to notice, when you're on this website, the mouse over here, the pointer, changes to clicking. The hand that shows that you can click the picture and something will happen. As right now, there are no URLs attached to each of these animations. So, but you can. Double clicking on the trigger, you can go to hyperlinks and add one. I've been using Google, but make sure that when you do add it, with all Adobe products, it has to be https:// in order for it to pick up the website. So now, once again, if we preview it, Nothing, because there are no URLs. When you click this one, it sends you to Google. And that's practically it. Thank you so much for watching.